A TikTok doctor looked at Troye Sivan's face and decided it needed fixing. Not privately, not as advice, but publicly, breaking down his appearance in a viral video and casually declaring that he was experiencing what the internet calls twink death. Just like that, Troye's face became content, and millions of people were invited to judge it. At first, it sounded like just another outrageous clip designed to farm views. But this one landed differently. Because the person saying it wasn't a random commenter hiding behind an avatar. It was a licensed aesthetic doctor, confidently recommending cosmetic fixes as if Troye's face was a problem that needed correcting. And that's when things started to spiral. What followed wasn't just a sarcastic clapback or a celebrity brushing off hate. It turned into a raw, uncomfortable conversation about aging, body image, and the way social media quietly profits when even the most confident people start questioning themselves. But that was only the beginning, because the moment Troye spoke up, the algorithm was already watching. The video itself didn't look aggressive at first. It was framed like educational content, the kind people scroll past every day without thinking twice. A doctor sitting comfortably on camera, confidently analyzing a photo of Troye Sivan and explaining why he looked older. Then came the line that instantly lit the internet on fire. One could argue he was experiencing twink death. That phrase alone was enough to spark outrage, but the video didn't stop there. The doctor continued, calmly listing off cosmetic recommendations as if Troye had booked an appointment. Dermal filler, skin treatments, peels, lasers, all said casually, publicly, and without consent, using a red carpet photo as evidence that something needed fixing. What made it unsettling wasn't just the commentary, it was how normalized it sounded. Like this was a totally reasonable thing to do. Like analyzing a stranger's face for flaws and broadcasting it to millions was just part of the job now. And because it came from someone with medical credentials, the criticism carried a weight that random hate comments never could. The clip spread fast. Some people laughed. Others defended it as honest advice. But for many viewers, it crossed an invisible line, turning a human being into a before and after slideshow without ever asking if he wanted to be part of the conversation. And that's when Troye saw it. For Troye, the comment didn't just sting because it was public, it hit an identity the internet has spent years refusing to let him outgrow. For most of his career, he's been boxed into one very specific image: skinny, youthful, soft. The word twink wasn't just a descriptor, it became a brand people projected onto him. And Troye knows it. He joked that he's still the literal Google image result for the word twink. But behind the humor was a real admission. He's not that person anymore, and the internet hasn't adjusted. His body has changed. His face has matured. And suddenly, instead of that being normal, it's treated like a problem that needs explaining. He described the strange mental tug-of-war that comes with aging in the public eye. Some days he feels like he's growing into himself, becoming more confident, more attractive, more grounded. Other days he spirals, feeling awkward, unfamiliar, even uncomfortable in his own skin. Not because anything is actually wrong, but because the version of him people fell in love with years ago no longer exists. And that's the part no one really talks about. When your career starts young, aging isn't just personal, it's public. Every change gets noticed, screenshotted, analyzed, compared. And when the label you were given was built entirely around youth, growing older can feel like you're breaking an unspoken contract. But the pressure didn't stop at jokes or labels. Because once that insecurity was triggered, it pushed Troye toward a crossroads he knew all too well. Troye didn't pretend he had it all figured out. Instead, he admitted something most people are afraid to say out loud, that when this kind of pressure hits, he tends to swing between two very different mindsets. One grounded in body positivity, and the other quietly flirting with the idea of changing himself just to make the noise stop. On one side, he genuinely believes in self-acceptance. He talked about being grateful for his body, for its health, and for what it allows him to do. Aging to him isn't a failure, it's a privilege. He even shared a piece of advice he once heard from someone at the very top of the fashion world: stay ugly. Meaning don't mess with your face. Let time do what it's going to do. There was something freeing about that idea. But then there's the other side, the one no amount of affirmations can fully silence. The side that starts noticing every photo, every angle, every comment. Troye admitted that he still considers cosmetic procedures from time to time, fully aware of how expensive, risky, and unpredictable they can be. He revealed that he'd once been quoted thousands of dollars just for a consultation about under-eye fat transfer. And even then, there were no guarantees it would actually look good. That push and pull is what made this moment feel so real. It wasn't about vanity. It was about navigating a world where confidence and insecurity can exist at the same time, especially when you're constantly being watched. And just when he was trying to sit with those feelings, something else kicked in and made everything worse. Almost immediately, Troye noticed something unsettling. The moment that video got under his skin, his feed started to change. Suddenly, his phone was filled with ads for cosmetic fixes, skin treatments, fillers, lasers, miracle solutions promising to reverse time. It didn't feel random. It felt targeted, like the system sensed vulnerability and rushed in to capitalize on it. He described it like watching a machine flip every switch at once. One insecure thought turned into a flood of perfectly timed suggestions, each one subtly reinforcing the idea that something about him needed correcting. And the more he lingered, the more it fed him. That's how the cycle works. Doubt triggers engagement, engagement triggers more doubt. What made it worse was the timing. This wasn't happening in a vacuum. It came right after unsolicited criticism from someone with medical authority. So instead of scrolling past, it hit deeper. The algorithm didn't create the insecurity, but it knew exactly how to amplify it. Troye tried to push back, tapping "not interested," hoping the flood would slow down. But the damage was already done. The moment had exposed how easily self-acceptance can be shaken when technology is designed to exploit hesitation. And just when it seemed like this situation was spiraling beyond control, the story took an unexpected turn. Not long after the backlash grew louder, the video quietly disappeared. The TikTok doctor deleted the clip, and the public commentary stopped almost as suddenly as it had started. But what most people didn't see was what happened behind the scenes. Troye later shared that the doctor reached out to him privately with an apology. Not a defensive one. Not a carefully worded PR message. According to Troye, it was thoughtful, sincere, and genuinely reflective. Enough that he felt comfortable saying there were no hard feelings between them. That detail mattered. Because it shifted the moment from a simple villain versus celebrity narrative into something more complicated. The issue wasn't just one person making a bad call, it was a system that encourages professionals to turn human faces into content, and rewards them for it. Even with the apology, the impact didn't just vanish. The video had already done its job. It sparked a wave of commentary, self-doubt, and algorithmic pressure that couldn't be undone with a deletion. Troye acknowledged that too, understanding that harm doesn't disappear just because someone says sorry. And this wasn't the first time he'd been forced to publicly navigate how people talk about his body. For Troye, this moment felt familiar. Long before this video, he'd already learned what it's like to have his body turned into a public debate. Every time he stepped slightly outside what people expected of him, the commentary followed. Sometimes supportive, sometimes harsh, and often completely uninvited. A few years earlier, he faced backlash after sharing bold, intimate imagery connected to his music. Instead of backing down, Troye addressed it head-on, pointing out something that made a lot of people uncomfortable. He actually likes his body. And for some reason, that confidence seemed to bother people more than insecurity ever did. He made it clear back then that his relationship with his body wasn't up for constant discussion. He didn't want to defend it in interviews. He didn't want to explain it. And he didn't owe anyone reassurance. That boundary mattered because it showed this wasn't about one comment or one doctor. It was about a pattern of entitlement. The internet has a strange obsession with controlling how people, especially queer artists, are allowed to exist in their bodies. Too confident and you're arrogant. Too vulnerable and you're weak. Age naturally and suddenly there's a problem to solve. Which is why this moment landed the way it did. It wasn't new, it was just another reminder of how easily admiration can turn into inspection. And that realization led to the bigger takeaway Troye wanted people to sit with. In the end, this wasn't really about fillers, aging, or a single viral video. It was about how comfortable we've become with turning real people into projects. Faces to be analyzed, improved, and monetized without permission. Troye's reaction pulled the curtain back on something a lot of people feel but rarely articulate. He framed it as a larger fight, not against one individual, but against a system built on endless dissatisfaction. A system where confidence is quietly punished, insecurity is aggressively targeted, and technology is designed to keep people questioning themselves just long enough to sell them a solution. What made his response resonate was the honesty. He didn't claim moral superiority. He admitted the temptation. He admitted the doubt. And he admitted that both self-love and insecurity can exist at the same time, even for someone who seems untouchable from the outside. By the end of it all, Troye didn't ask for sympathy. He asked for awareness. Awareness of how easily we participate in this cycle, how often we scroll past content that shouldn't exist, and how quickly we normalize critique disguised as advice. Because if this can happen to someone with fame, money, and a strong sense of self, what chance does anyone else have? Throughout this story, the goal isn't to slow down or over-explain, it's to keep momentum. Every moment moves forward, every detail adds something new, and nothing lingers longer than it needs to. The tone stays conversational, like you're hearing this from a friend who knows the full story and is connecting the dots in real time. Instead of repeating the same dramatic phrases, the language shifts naturally, keeping things fresh and unpredictable. Each section opens with tension and closes by pointing ahead, so the viewer always feels like there's one more layer about to be revealed. No lectures. No moral grandstanding. Just clear, human storytelling that respects the audience's attention. And most importantly, the story never forgets who it's for. This isn't about tearing anyone down or chasing outrage. It's about pulling viewers in, making them think, and leaving them with a feeling that this conversation matters more than they first realized.